Leaders spend a lot of time identifying risks. Frédéric Gielen believes that one of the biggest risks often goes unnoticed. Ambiguity. No dramatic failures, no major incidents, simply uncertainty about ownership, data, and responsibility that quietly grows until disruption exposes it. Welcome back. You're listening to Riskmaster, the download, where I share bite-sized insights from our latest discussions. This extract comes from a conversation with Frédéric Gielen, executive partner at Reply. Drawing on decades of experience advising financial institutions and regulators, Frédéric explains why ambiguity is often a hidden driver of systemic failures and why successful regulatory change depends as much on organizational capacity as financial investment. Here is Frédéric. Here, I'd like to move a little bit into some of the patterns we're seeing in resilience and sometimes the asymmetry and impact of certain small event that triggers massive repercussion later on. So when you think about that, if you have a view on that, right, which early failures tend to create disproportionately large consequence later, if not dealt with in time?
Without hesitation, ambiguity. It can be ambiguity in ownership, in data lineage, in an exit strategy for a critical third party. They always look minor at first. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with the first part of your question. You have a process, it spans different functions, no one really owns it. You have a data set, it feeds multiple reports, no one owns the reconciliation. You have a critical vendor, but the exit testing has never been operationalized. No, under stable conditions, none of that will trigger an alarm bell, individual elements, etc. But ambiguity in ownership and data, that compounds. And when stress hits, these small structural vagueness, they become very large systemic issues. And the more tightly coupled the systems, the more these design flows at the end of the day, the more they scale, but they don't scale linearly. They scale exponentially. Let's say exponentially for argument's sake. So I think, in my view, ambiguity is the root cause of a lot of issues in large organizations, in particular organizations that have been around for long.
And if I build a little bit on that, when regulatory change accelerates, for example, if I focus on regulation because we talked about it before, what asymmetries do leaders underestimate the most?
I think they focus too much on cost and deadlines and underestimate capacity. In my experience, organizations run out of capacity before they run out of budget. And that's the asymmetry. I think regulatory speed can outpace the ability of the organization to absorb the change. And that has, in my view, little to do, not nothing, but little to do with cost and with deadlines.
With the capacity and skills, what I've seen many times is the organization not having the skill set to drive the particular topic in scope of that regulation. For example, it can be a real challenge.
Yes, or might have it, and typically has it, in particular large firms. But the regulatory change tends to always come and hit the same people in the organization.
Yeah, that's very true.
You're back to things like the goal by Goldratt, etc., the theory of constraints. You have a number of constraints in the organization, and you can throw all the money in the world at it. You just don't have the capacity within a short time frame. Obviously, you can always deal with it if you have more time to handle it, to manage it, and that's something that I see a lot. And as a consultancy, not going to be very commercial here. Sometimes clients say, well, you add more people, do this, do that. In a lot of instances, it's not the solution. You need the organization to be able to absorb the external help, or it's going to be throwing money out of the window for nothing. So capacity is, in my view, very important. And sometimes not, it's not that it's not taken into account, but it's it's not always the key element that people focus on, and I think they should focus on that a bit